Have you heard about the funeral theory? It says that no matter how popular you are, no matter how many people recognize your name, no matter how full your contact list looks, only a few people, maybe around 10, will genuinely cry at your funeral. Not politely, not out of obligation, but in that quiet, uncontrollable way that surprises even themselves. Because real grief doesn't perform, and real connection is much rarer than we like to believe. There's another part of this theory. People don't like this part. If the weather is bad, if it's raining, if it's cold, if showing up means discomfort, only about half of the people who know you will even come. And suddenly, popularity means very little. Rain doesn't change who mattered to you. Rain simply removes the excuses. We spend an incredible amount of our lives trying to be pleasant, trying to be easy. We choose softer words even when something hurts. We hold back honesty to keep the atmosphere light. We reply on time. We show up smiling. We learn how not to be too much. Not because we're fake, but because we're afraid. Afraid that if we become inconvenient, we'll be replaced. So we make ourselves smaller. We become agreeable, predictable, low maintenance. And for a while, it works. People stay, but only as long as the weather is good. The funeral theory asks something uncomfortable. Who would still come when it's raining? Not when it's dramatic. Not when it's public, but when it's quiet, unnoticed, and slightly inconvenient. Rain has a strange way of revealing things. It doesn't test love. It tests commitment. Because love, in theory, is easy. Commitment is not. There are people who care about you when it costs them nothing. When you're fun to be around. When you're helpful. When you listen more than you speak, when you don't ask for too much. And then there are people who stay when it costs them comfort. Those two groups are not the same. Most relationships don't end loudly. They don't collapse in arguments or dramatic goodbyes. They fade. One unanswered message, one postponed plan, one moment where you needed support and didn't receive it. And suddenly, the connection is gone. Not because something bad happened, but because something became inconvenient. The painful part is this. No one explains it to you. No one says, I can't show up for you like this. They just stop bringing the umbrella. You notice it slowly. You're quieter than usual, and people drift. You're tired, and invitations disappear. You're struggling, and conversations become shorter. Not because you changed, but because the situation did. And still, we blame ourselves. We wonder if we were too honest, too heavy, too slow, too human. So we try again. We smile a little wider. We apologize for existing. We make ourselves convenient again, because somewhere along the way we learned a dangerous lesson. That being loved means being easy to love. But the funeral theory was never meant to make you bitter. It was meant to make you see clearly. The truth is, you were never meant to be deeply known by many people. That idea sounds comforting at first. To be loved by everyone, remembered by everyone. But it was never realistic. Depth requires time, attention, presence, and no one has enough of those for a crowd. Most people who pass through your life are not meant to stay, not because they don't care, but because they were only meant to walk with you for a season. Some came to teach you something. Some came to distract you from loneliness. Some came because the timing was easy. And when the timing changed, So did they. The funeral theory doesn't say this to make you feel small. It says this to free you from unnecessary effort. You don't have to keep proving your worth to people who disappear the moment it rains. You don't have to keep performing happiness for an audience that wouldn't stay when you're silent. Imagine this again. The room is quiet. The ceremony is simple. There are empty chairs, many more than you expected. But the few that are filled completely. These people are not checking the time. They're not thinking about where to be next. They are present. Because presence is the language of real connection. Those are the people who saw you on your worst days and didn't leave, who didn't need you to be impressive, or useful, or easy. They stayed because leaving never felt like an option. And suddenly the number doesn't matter. 10 people, 5 people, even 1. Depth has never needed quantity. We spend so much of our lives chasing applause, likes, replies, attention. But applause is loud and disappears quickly. Depth is quiet, and it lasts. Maybe the goal was never to be known by everyone. Maybe the goal was to be truly known by someone. Someone who would sit with you in uncomfortable silence. Someone who would show up without being asked. Someone who would stand in the rain without checking how long it would last. So stop editing yourself for people who only stay in good weather. Stop exhausting yourself trying to be convenient. You were never meant to be easy for everyone. You were meant to be real for a few. At the end of it all, crowds fade, names fade, noise fades. What remains are the quiet moments shared with the ones who chose you without conditions. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that has always been enough, even when it rains. Maybe one day you'll think back to this. Not during a loud moment, not when life is busy, but on a quiet night when the rain sounds heavier than usual. And you'll realize that the people who mattered most were never the ones who made noise. They were the ones who stayed, without being asked, without needing a reason. Some people don't bring umbrellas, and that's okay. They were never meant to stay long enough to get wet with you.